Yo, BJ Gaddour with the Daily BJ, and this is a deep dive on the hip hinge, often referred to as the stiff-legged deadlift. Great for developing the entire posterior chain, the back, including the lower back, glutes, hamstrings, even the calves, and it's actually a single joint movement. So we're only moving through the hips when we do this exercise. I see a lot of people do it improperly, so we're going to talk on how to do it wrong, how to do it right, also give a couple key pointers to improve form and technique. I do love learning the movement with a kettlebell, a single kettlebell. I'll be showing that in a second, but the big focus here, right? So a squat is where I'm actively bending at the hips, knees, and ankles. So I'm actually sinking down. I've got a more upright trunk position. On a hip hinge, we don't have the legs straight. They're soft and slightly bent, but they're maintained at that angle for the full duration of the exercise. So if you imagine taking a sword and slicing it right through the hip, that's our pivot point. All I'm going to do is go from a standing kind of plank position, ribs, shoulders down, abs crunch, glutes tight, and pivot at the hips. Think about closing a car door with the butt, head stays aligned with the spine, and I go to the point where ideally my back is flat and the trunk is parallel to the floor, and then I push my hips forward. That's the movement. A lot of times, because people have poor hamstring flexibility, poor hip mobility, they can't get there without rounding their back or squatting and bending the knees. So it's really important to start with just body weight, get the mobility built into it, but also understanding the purpose of the movement is not to feel your quads, it's to develop the glutes, hamstrings, and the entire backside of the body. So the reason I like the single kettlebell, especially with the heavier bells, the bell will hit the ground at an earlier point than with dumbbells, so you can't go too far and risk overly rounding your back or getting in a bad spinal position as much. It also allows you to hold the handle with both hands and kind of screw the shoulders into the socket to create that external rotation torque in the shoulders to really get tension in the system and stay more stable through the spine. So what I'll do is, and by the way, you shouldn't be doing kettlebell swings until you can do kettlebell hip hinges, because all the kettlebell swing is a ballistic, explosive, more full range of motion movement of a hinge. So if you can't hinge, you shouldn't be able to swing, and that's typically how it works. So I'm going to hinge back at my hips, flat back, screw my hands hard into the handle and try to create tension underneath the armpits and shoulders, and from there I'm going to stand up, squeeze the glutes tight. Big mistake here is we will like hyperextend the back and come back too far. Also, people will lower and then like, bad news right there, right? So they hyperextend the neck, or they round the back, or they squat too much. So again, perfect form and technique. I'm locked in. I like to have the chin slightly tucked, ribs and shoulders down, and then just think about closing the car door with the butt, push it back, keep tension underneath the shoulders. If you want to keep more tension in the system, pause with the bell just above the floor, and then come right up. In the beginning, I'd recommend like a 3 to 5 second eccentric or lowering phase to really feel what it's like to load up those hamstrings, maintain good form and technique, come up, and also will give you a little more of a gain stimulus because stretching the muscle under load creates more muscle damage and subsequent growth. Also more strength development. So maintain, pause, come right up. All right, so that is the kettlebell hip hinge. If you find, a couple things can happen. You have trouble getting your hips back, you can actually take a band that is anchored to a stable support structure behind you and put it right at the hip level. And what will happen is, as you push back, the band will actually push you back into position. Really helps get the hips back, give you that external cue to maintain a more vertical shin position, which loads the glutes and hamstrings more. So I'm locked in tight right here. The further you come away, the more resistance you get. You also get, by the way, resistance at full hip extension, unlike just doing it loaded with just the weight. So I'm locked in here, chin tucked, we're head in line with the spine, come up, squeeze the glutes, and watch what happens. It pulls my hips back as I lower, right through. So you can actually use this as just a variation in your main workout, or during the warm-up phase, just to get good form and technique going. Another big mistake, people with weak lateral hips, the knees will cave in on their hinges. So if that's the case, you can take a mini band. I like the hip circle from howmuchyoubench.net because it's thicker and more durable. You can put it either above or below the knee, it's totally up to you. But this will actually give you a neurological driver to push out against the band and turn on the lateral hips more while you're doing a glute movement. So you get two vectors of resistance, vertical and lateral. So I would start, pull up, squeeze, and then push the hips back and try to maintain that position. Hips back, push out against the band, and really try to activate the entire glute complex, all right? Now, you can do these with dumbbells as well. It takes a little more work to get the shoulders in a more stable position, all right? So in the case of the dumbbells, probably the best place to start, because it's a little easier to maintain good shoulder mechanics, is feet a little closer so you have space for the dumbbells to pass without bumping the thighs. Palms facing is also very stable shoulder position. Glutes tight, rib shoulders on, abs crunched. Lower slowly in control. Head in line with the spine until the back is flat. Make sure that doesn't happen. See that? You gotta keep those shoulders pulled down and back and retracted. Keep tension in those delts. 1, 2, 3. 3 to 5 second lowering is a great place to start on these. Coming up. If you want to go overhand, it requires a little more stabilization for the shoulders, but you can also go with a wider stance. Keep the knees soft. Slide it right down. Slow and controlled until the point where ideally it's upper mid-shin level until the back is flat. Come up. Control. No need for most people to go any lower than trunk parallel to the floor. All right? So that is the hip hinge. Now, I mentioned that if you have tight hamstrings, what will happen is as you come down, you'll be forced to start rounding the back to compensate and get range of motion. So with a high step boxer bench, even kitchen counter, tabletop, take that top leg, put it on that bench, spend 2 to 5 minutes each leg just flossing the hamstring complex. Inner, outer, middle. And you want to focus on keeping the chest up and just moving inside to side. A little rounding of the upper back is fine, but what I don't want to do is get so overly rounded that we lose the stretch into the hamstring. So, sliding side to side, holding positions that are a little bit tight. You can also take deep belly breaths and relax into that stretch. You can even do some PNF or contract relax, where you actively push the heel down hard into the bench, engaging the hamstring for about 5 seconds, and then relax and you feel yourself sink into the next stretch. Or you could work on squeezing the quad, the opposing muscle group, to get into a deeper stretch. But I really love adding that side-to-side flossing motion. Again, 2 to 5 minutes each side a couple times a day will dramatically improve your hamstring mobility so the hip hinge becomes more accessible. But it's a great exercise to develop your entire backside. It complements the squat very well because it is more glute ham dominant, where the squat is more quad dominant. And it's also a much easier deadlift to learn than conventional deadlifting because there's more joints involved and there's a little more of a technicality, especially using a barbell. So give it a shot, develop the backside of the body. Be sure to subscribe to the page and check out thedailybj.com for a lot more. We'll see you next time.